What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Between Two Tackles. I'm your host, Alex Spinelli, and alongside me, as always, is Ray Voulo. Ray, my man, how are we doing? We finally made it. Conference championships are here. You're shaking your head a little bit. Ohio State now playing this week?
It's just on repeat, but sports are stupid. Football's stupid. It's been a depressing year. So maybe in a couple of weeks I'll get over it once the playoffs start, but I'm pretty down in the dumps at the moment. Ryan Day's
Yeah.
gots to go.
Ooh,
Gots to go.
yeah. That'll be a topic of conversation in the next couple weeks. I'm sure there'll be some buzz surrounding that. But Ray, I know you said football's stupid, but we have Aaron Rodgers' Enigma coming out on Netflix. Perfect timing, right?
Dude, what do we do to deserve this shit, man? Honestly, when I saw that on Twitter, I just kept swiping like I'm not dealing with this right now. I was hoping no one would say anything. It's just so preposterous. Like, what? Literally, the timing could not be worse.
Yeah, it's horrible. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news when I brought that up.
Oh, that was you sent that?
Yeah, that's on me. But we are in conference championship week. The matchups are set. Before we do some previews of the Power Four conference championship, let's take a look at the most current college football playoff rankings. Oregon State at number 1. They are 12-0. Texas is in the 2 spot. Penn State moved up to number 3. Notre Dame is at 4. Georgia at 5. Ohio State, after losing to Michigan, is at 6. Tennessee is at 7. SMU is at 8. Indiana is at 9. Boise State at 10. Alabama at 11. And Miami at 12. And they are out right now of the bracket because of the Big 12 championship. So the teams that are just outside, Ole Miss is at 13. South Carolina with a big win over Clemson at 14. And then Arizona State and Iowa State will play for the Big 12 championship are at 15 and 16. Clemson, who's playing for the ACC championship, is at 17. Right? Anything really stand out to you?
I don't think there's anything too surprising. I guess SMU being at 8 is kind of the biggest takeaway for me, just because I think it gives them some buffer where they may be in regardless. I guess it really depends on how the game plays out. If they get absolutely dog walked by Clemson, I could see the committee putting in Alabama. But I think it's that 8, SMU, Alabama at 11, and then those are really the only. I guess Clemson at 17, but that's irrelevant because if they win, they're in, obviously.
Right. Yeah, it really feels like it's setting up for that ACC championship to be the determinant of what's going to ultimately happen with these rankings. So right now on bovadasportsbook.com, SMU to make the college football playoff is minus 480. So it's seemingly that they're in, regardless of their loss in a close game, or like you said, if they get blown out, maybe they're out. But on Bovada, they also have Alabama minus 400. So it seems like Alabama, 3-loss team right now. They're sticking in. They need the brand.
Interesting. What was that line?
Minus 400.
And then what's Clemson?
Clemson does not have odds right now. I would assume that's just because they're in a win and in situation. So it's like the money line is the win and in factor.
I think just from those lines, just off the top of my head, I really want to hammer both those teams not to make the playoffs. And just take the profit if Clemson wins.
Yeah,
right. You're getting odds there. I think that's kind of like a little bit of value in my eyes.
Who would you rather bet to not make it?
Alabama. I think like I said, I think SMU being 8, despite an absolute blowout, I think they're in. So I think if Clemson knocks off SMU, I think Alabama falls out. But that being said, we've seen what the committee does. They're prone to some fuckery. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk some games. Let's start with the ACC because, like we said, that seems to have the most implication of what is going to happen with these next rankings. Unless you have another place you want to start.
I know we can start. We can start the ACC. It's the most important game by far.
All right. So Clemson, SMU on Bovada is minus 2.5 right now. The over-under is 55.5. Clemson, this is the 8th trip to the ACC championship in the last 10 years. They've won the last 7 that they were in it. SMU, first year in the conference, and they won the Atlantic last year. So no surprise to them that they're having success in the ACC. Ray, keys for this game. Talk to me about Clemson and how they're going to win this game.
I think it's going to come down to Clemson's defense in particular. Their rush defense. They need to be stout against the run. I think so far this year they have been. They've been allowing. Let me see where I have them up quick. I mean, actually, no, they've been terrible against the run. My bad. 150 yards a game against the run they're allowing. That's just not going to cut it against this SMU team that they do their damage on the ground with Smith. I think Jennings even joins in as well. So they're going to need to be stout against the run against this team and really keep it close. I think this is, I mean, the line is 2.5 for a reason. This is going to be a battle. I think it's going to go into the fourth quarter. Me personally, I think Clemson's experience with Dabo is going to be the difference maker as well as Kate Klubnik. I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I agree that I think that their experience will definitely help them. But like I was saying, SMU is no stranger to the success that they're having right now. For Clemson, big. They're getting DeMonte Capehart back this week. It looks like he tried to give it a go in warmups last week against South Carolina and didn't. But it seems like he's on track to play, which would be absolutely massive for this Clemson defensive line. Like you said, Clemson rushing defense has not been great. They gave up over 250 yards to South Carolina, 166 were to Lenore Sellers. So, like you just mentioned, Kevin Jennings, a guy who can really do it with his legs. Look out for that. I mean, they even gave up 288 yards to the Citadel. I know we always make jokes about the Citadel, but the Citadel going for almost 300 rushing yards against Clemson is not a recipe for success. For SMU, I think this team is really interesting. I think this team is really good. I'm not sure the entire country really knows how good this team is. They don't get a lot of airtime on national television, but this defense in particular has been very, very good for them. They're top 5 rush defense. They're allowing just 96 yards per game on 2.8 yards per carry. So I think, like you said, them controlling the line of scrimmage, especially on defense, they got to get Klubnik down. And I think the same goes for Phil Maffa. Phil Maffa's a good back, but I always feel like he's kind of a guy that he needs a lot of carries to get going. And if he doesn't get going early, it can kind of be a long day for them. So if they can control the line of scrimmage, make Clemson one-dimensional, they can really get after Klubnik. I think they can have a good shot at winning this game. And then another key point for SMU defensively, I think they need to take Antonio Williams away. He's really the only wide receiver that I'm really scared of on Clemson. I think you can double him and have them beat me on the outside with the true freshman, Bryant Wesco. He's a good player. He will be a good player in the future, but I think it might be a little too much for him right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I think this Clemson team is going to have to be one-dimensional, just with the stoutness of SMU's front seven and Klubnik. It's going to come down to taking care of the football because when they're in both their losses, he's thrown, or 2 of the 3 of their losses rather, he's thrown picks. I feel like sometimes when the game gets a little too much, he kind of panics. He has some happy feet back there too, and kind of just chucks the ball up. So he's going to really need to stay composed. I think if they're able to establish the run game, it would do wonders, but I just don't see it happening against this SMU front.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. I mean, Kevin Jennings is really, really good. He's extremely dangerous when he gets into the open field. He hasn't had to run too much in the last few weeks. The SMU's had a really light schedule all year, but they are a good football team outside of just their schedule. But I think they're going to have 5-7 design runs for him, which are going to be really important. So for Clemson on defense, the linebackers, Barrett Carter, Woodaz, Sammy Brown, those guys have got to be really stout in the middle of the field, making sure they wrap up, making sure they tackle, especially on third downs. Jennings makes a lot of plays with his legs on third down. So I think for Clemson, they have the better athletes. They have the better talent. So I think they should come out on top. But I'm actually rolling with SMU. I think they're playing some really good football right now. And I'm going to take them -2.5 on Bovada. What do you think?
Yeah, I hate Dabo like poison. It's been well documented. If that guy's hanging off a cliff, I don't know if I'm putting my hand out to help him up. But that being said, I don't know how you can bet against them as dogs in this game, just with the experience that he's had. They're, like you said, they're more talented. They have the better athletes. Dabo has been a proven coach and a winner, so I have to take them as dogs. +110. I'll take the odds.
You agree with Dabo? They'll be the first 3-loss national champions.
Oh no, they're gonna get starched. They're gonna get starched. But I think they'll be able to get in though.
All right, sounds good. Let's roll on to the Big 12, just the craziest conference in America.
Hell
Arizona, Arizona State and Iowa State, Ray. Who thought we'd be here, right? BYU was running the table. Thought maybe Colorado would get in. Shout out Prime. Thought we get a little Deion Shador, Travis Hunter action, but alas, we have Matt Campbell and Kenny Dillingham. Let's go.
Dude, the
These are our guys.
battle of the coaches, you gotta love it. I'm such an Iowa State stan. I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if it was the first college football projection episode we did or the second, but I did have them making it to the conference championship. I think I did pick them in at least one of those episodes. So
Good on you.
I ride with my boy Matt Campbell. This defense is playing great. They're third best pass defense in the nation, 156 yards a game. They're 18th in points against. I think it's just under 20. But both these teams are really, really weak against the run. Arizona State, I mean, they're not as bad. They allow, I think, 117 yards a game, but Iowa State's allowing 173 yards a game on the ground. So they're going to have to control Scattaboo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Cam Scatterbo did.
Scattaboo.
He's a dog.
This Arizona State team is weird because they're kind of there's like a three-headed monster. Really, it's the quarterback, Scattaboo, and Jordan Tyson. That's pretty much it. I think
Tyson's out.
Oh, he is out.
Yeah, he hurt his shoulder last week against Arizona, so he's out.
That's 100% confirmed?
100% confirmed.
Interesting. They're already going to have trouble moving the ball through the air against this Iowa State pass defense. So I think just the fact that it's just Scatabo, pretty much for the most part. Obviously, they have other weapons, but I'm going to take Iowa State in this game, especially as I think they're also 2.5-point dogs on Bovado, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I got 2 right now, but yeah, pretty close. The over-under is 49.5.
Yeah, so I think besides the defensive side of the ball, just obviously keying in on Scatabo, Rocco Beck's going to have to take care of the ball too. 8 interceptions on the year, a little too much. I think with those 2 receivers on the outside, oh my God, why am I blanking?
Higgins and Noel.
Yeah, Higgins and Noel, thank you. You're lagging a little bit on me, so it took me a second to hear that. But yeah, I think that they just have those 2 NFL wide receivers are going to be top 2-day picks. So I think it's going to be a little too much talent that Arizona State hasn't really seen.
Yeah, Ray, when was the last time Iowa State won a conference championship?
I'm going to go never.
All right. It's better than never, but it's 1912. Last time they won, 1912.
That's not even a real year. That's never happened.
Arizona State has not won a conference championship since 2017, and they did it when they were in the Pac-10. Wow. This is great for both teams.
Not even the Pac-12, the Pac-10.
Yeah, the Pac-10. A little history on the line. Ray, I think you hit it on the head. Styles make fights in UFC, in boxing, and the same goes for football. This is a really interesting game because, like you said, I feel like both teams' strengths on offenses are the opposing defense's weaknesses. Iowa State can't stop the run. Cam Scatterbo is an absolute maniac. That guy just will not go down on first contact. He is awesome. But like we said, no Jordan Tyson, the 1,000-yard receiver for Arizona State. And outside of Cam Scatterbo, who's their second leading receiver with almost 500 yards, they didn't have another wide receiver get 300 yards this year. So I think it's going to be really tough for them to move the ball, and especially because this Iowa State defense, especially this secondary in particular, is really good. They got some real NFL players. Darian Proctor, who's going to be a top 100 pick for Iowa State in this upcoming draft. He's out there. So Arizona State, I think they're going to rely on Cam Scatterbo as they've done all season. I just like the vibes with this team right now. Like, they're playing at an all-time high level right now. So maybe that propels them, because I feel like even though Iowa State has won these last few weeks, they have not been playing their best football. And Rocco Beck, especially, like you said, has not really taken care of the ball. He's got 5 interceptions in the last 6 games. He's had 14 turnover-worthy plays in those games. And his completion percentage in those last 6 games, 43.5, 57.9, 64.9, 72.7. That was against Cincinnati, though. 52.6 and 37.1 in a win last week against Kansas State. Terrible numbers for Rocco Beck, who really started the season hot. So I'm really interested to see who throws the first punch in this game, who can get on the board early and really make those red zone possessions count, because you can't settle for 3 in a game like this. That's going to be really weird. I thought going into the podcast that I'd be picking Arizona State with the points, but I'm going to go with Matt Campbell and the dogs. Give me Iowa State +2 on Bovada right now. Right? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with Iowa State. I just think that they're proven in these close games. They can win an ugly game, man. That Iowa game was one of the most hideous games I've ever watched in my life. They are no stranger to it. I think this is going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be really gritty. It's not going to be your prototypical Big 12 championship game. So I just like I like the odds in my boy Matt Campbell. But that being said, there's going to be some great highlights for the coaches on the sidelines. They're both going to be bugging out. They're
They're
both
fiery.
really animated. Just sorry to digress, but what year was it when Matt Campbell wanted to fight the fans? How many years ago was that?
That
Do you
was like,
remember?
yeah, was that 2020?
I think it may have been like during
Was
COVID or
Yeah, it
right
was right
after.
before COVID,
He
I
was getting
think.
held back by like 7 players. So I'm really excited to see the battle between these two.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. Over under 49 and a half on Bovada. What do you think about that? I was kind of feeling under.
Yeah, I mean, I like to go under two, especially noon kickoff. It's gonna be early there in Texas, so yeah, I'll go under. I may even go first half under.
Hmm. I wonder what that is right now. All right, let's go to the Big Ten. Let's talk about Penn State. All right.
Can I just
Can I
say
start
one
here?
thing? One thing.
Go
The
ahead.
order that you're doing these games is absolutely bananas. I don't know if you're
Well,
schizophrenic or I don't know what's going on.
well, I wanted to start with the ACC because that game means the most, and then I wanted to get the Big 12 out of the way because it's the least interesting game.
Okay.
Does that rationale make sense for you?
I mean, not particularly, but I'm picking up what you're putting down at least.
All right. Would you rather me go to the SEC right now?
No, no, we'll go. We'll go. We'll go to the Big Ten. I'm just very confused. I'm all
All
over
right.
the
You're
place.
a pro's pro. You get it.
Yeah.
All right. Penn State and Oregon. Penn State did not expect to be here at all. Oregon on Bovada right now are 3.5 point favorites. The over under is also 49 and a half for this game. Penn State, they won the the Big Ten championship in 2016, have not been back since to Indy. This is year one for Oregon, and they're already in. I I can't deal with the Ducks, man. Between the recruiting cycle that Dan Lanning's on right now, I'm out. I'm out on the Ducks. They're fucking annoying as shit. Um, I'll start here with Penn State, though. Like I said, nothing to lose. They did not expect to be here. You got to go out. You got to play extremely hard. Offensively, you got to run the football effectively. I think this pass defense for Oregon is really good. I think if Penn State can control the clock, they also got to hit on some chunk plays. I think that's where Oregon is most susceptible in the run game. Singleton has been banged up, but he's starting to get healthy. He's starting to get going a little bit. He's had some of those big chunk play runs in the last few weeks. They need his speed to be a factor and take some of the pressure off of Drew Aller and Tyler Warren because we've seen it all year. They really don't have much outside of Warren and outside of these backs. I mean, Harrison Wallace has had a couple good games. Omari Evans is good for one deep ball every 2 games, maybe. But outside of Tyler Warren, they really don't have much offensively. So I'm looking for this run game to be really effective and this offensive line to go to work against a strong Oregon defensive line. The second thing for me on offense, you got to make the red zone drives count. You saw this again when they played Ohio State. They go down the field on the first drive of the game. It's a 7-minute drive, and you end up settling for 3. That's how you lose games to really good teams like Oregon. You do not want to get into a shootout with this team. You don't have the offensive firepower to go head to head, score for score with Oregon. So you got to make those points count when you get them in the red zone. You got to get 7. And then the last thing, this kind of coincides with scheming it up for Singleton, but Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, you got to be special. I'm assuming he's going to have some crazy ass shit designed for this game. I think he's going to go balls to the wall. I think he's going to throw everything out there that he's got. This Oregon team, it's not a team that you're going to have 5 really long drives against. You got to have a couple explosive plays and have a couple easy points to go head to head with them. And then defensively, sorry, I'm taking all this time,
Yeah,
but
you're good. Yeah, it's your boys.
defensively, you got to get pressure on Gabriel. You got to speed him up. He's a decent athlete, and he can make a couple plays with his legs, but he wants to stand in there and make throws. If you can get him off his spots, I think you can rush him a little bit, and he has shown this season that he will turn the ball over a little bit. So you got to make those plays count. I'm really curious to see the alignment for Penn State's defensive line. Abdul Carter, specifically, he predominantly lines up against the left tackle. So that would be Josh Connerly, a really good left tackle, really athletic, really light on his feet. I want to see if they actually line him up more towards the right side. You're playing against a lefty in Gabriel, so you're going against his blind side there. And also you're going against a Johnny Cornelius, who is also an NFL prospect, good player, but he just doesn't have the foot speed to keep up with Abdul Carter rep after rep. So I'm curious to see where they line up Abdul Carter and Deni Dennis Sutton and Amin Anover. So I'm curious to see where Carter is if he's more on that right side. And then the last thing for me defensively for Penn State, tackling. This has been an issue all season. I don't know if it's just because I'm so invested in all the games and I'm really looking at it. But this is the worst tackling team I've ever seen outside of the New York Jets. But there have been times where Penn State really has struggled to tackle against good physical teams, like in Ohio State that you saw it. For them, the linebackers in the middle of the field, they got to be big. Kobe King, Tony Rojas, Oregon's got so much speed and so much twitchiness and so much special talent with Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden, Jordan James, Terrence Ferguson. They got all these guys who can make plays. These check down plays, these short area throws where they set up screens and they set up blockers down the field. You got to get guys down immediately. You can't let those short plays go for first downs or go for big plays. So I'm really looking at the tackling, and I'm looking at that defensive line to really get after Oregon's offensive line and speed up Gabriel.
I actually agree with everything you said. The one thing I'm going to not even disagree, just tweak with the in regards to the pass rush and pressuring. Yes, you do, but you need to be disciplined in the rush lanes. They can't let Gabriel, that little midget, get outside and let like a broken play get down, because that shit is so annoying, and he's really good at it. I think that's when he's at his best. So one thing you point out, you wanted Abdul Carter kind of to line up a little bit more over the right tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if they line him up over the center a couple times. I feel like I've seen them do that on tape a lot, and maybe just start running some games too. Let him loop around to the outside and maybe cause it a little bit of contain and confusion to really catch Gabriel off guard, because you mentioned it. He's been susceptible to the pick. I think he's been sacked 11 times too. Wisconsin really pressured him. That game was really close. I think they only won by 3, right? So I think pressuring him for the Penn State is the name of the game, and then counter that for Oregon. I think big plays. They're going to need to get a big play from Tez Johnson or Evan Stewart. Maybe lull the defense to sleep a little bit with the run game, and then try to attack them over the top. They really need to utilize that explosiveness out of those wide receivers. And then offensively for Penn State, you hit it right on the head. That run game, they just got to abuse Singleton all game. I know Warren's going to get his looks obviously too, but I think it's all going to come down to the run game and Drew Aller playing a smart headsy game.
Yeah. I feel like we should have the advantage in terms of fans. But I don't know.
I mean, probably, but
right?
I would assume so.
Nobody from Oregon's going to Indy.
Yeah, but Oregon's in the Big Ten. I mean, they're already at a disadvantage. Let's be real.
I was thinking about this when I was going through all the sites for all these games. Like Georgia's playing in Atlanta, obviously, which is so close. Clemson's playing in, I think that game's in Charlotte, which is like right next to Clemson, basically. Should we just have the neutral sites just be nowhere near any of the schools?
That would be hysterical. Like
Penn State versus Oregon and New Mexico.
Georgia,
that'd be
electric. Georgia and Texas travel to Washington.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I'm in for that. All right. Oregon is a 3.5-point favorite on Bovada. Over under 49.5, right? What do you got?
I mean, against my better judgment, just the way this line is, I think Penn State may get it done. I really do.
No.
Against my better judgment, I really
honestly that just gave me horrible vibes for this game.
I mean, it should, as it should. But
it gave me horrible vibes.
I'm going to pick Penn State. Oregon hasn't really played many people this year. I think they have like the 60th strength of schedule. Not that Penn State's much better. They're at 36, and really their big test was against Ohio State, where they kind of looked like shit. But I don't know. I think their run game, I think they're going to just run the shit out of the ball, and they're going to control it and just be a little bit too much for Oregon. I think they squeak it out 24-21.
Ooh, fuck yeah. I'm obviously rolling with Penn State, but more importantly, I think I love this under.
Yeah.
I think this is like my big play of the week. Under 49.5. All right, let's make it last. Georgia, Texas, the SEC championship. Texas is a 2.5-point favorite on Bovada right now. The over-under is also 49.5. Right. Were you surprised at all about this line that Texas favored? I mean, it's basically a home game for Georgia. They handled Texas 30-15, and they controlled that whole game. Carson Beck had 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in that game, too. Are you a little bit surprised at this line when it came out?
I guess a little bit. I thought it'd be closer to even, but I mean, Texas that in that game in particular, that first half was as about as dreadful as you could have even scripted,
Yeah.
and they did win the second half in a sense. I think Quinn Ewers' health is going to be a big factor. I mean, I think he's a little bit healthier than he was in that game. And I'm curious. I don't know if they're going to use Arch Manning a little bit too. I think they may mix in that two
Oh, I had
quarterback.
that written down.
I want to see them mix in that two quarterback look. But I think really the reason why Texas is favored is this defense. This defense is legit. I think they're top two in scoring with 11.7, 143 passing yards per game. They are a little bit susceptible against the run with 104 yards per game, but they turn the ball over at an alarming rate, which I think is what's going to be Georgia and ultimately Carson Beck's undoing. When he's pressured and in big games, you can just see he's been rattled and he's been turnover prone heavy. He has at least 12 picks on the year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mhm.
So I just think the lack of skill players on offense for Georgia and just the abundance of skill on this Texas defense, I think it's going to be a little too much. I think it's also with Sark having that first game and that first half in particular learn from. I think he's going to scheme up a much better game plan to start this game, and really get them out front. So I think Texas is going to end up winning 28. Oh no, sorry, 31-24.
Nice. Yeah, Texas is really interesting. You mentioned Quinn Ewers' health. I'm looking at Kelvin Banks' health too. He only played seven snaps last week against Texas A&M, and he had an ankle injury. Trevor Gosby stepped in. He did a really good job, though. Had 0 pressures allowed against a really good Texas A&M front with Nick Scorton. Ray, is this a Ewing theory?
Excuse me?
Do you know what the Ewing theory is?
I don't even know what you just said. No, not
Uh,
familiar.
the Ewing theory is your team actually plays better like without your best player. This stems back from the Knicks in
Yeah,
1999 when Patrick Ewing tore his Achilles
yeah, I'm
and they
gonna
ended
go.
up going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in that mumbo jumbo. I'm out on that.
You're
Yeah.
but I'm looking for Kelvin Banks to get back healthy. I think they said he should be good to go. But I think, like you said, I think Texas needs to dominate up front on this offensive line. They did a really good job against A&M, and they only allowed 1 sack. But last time these two teams played, they allowed 7 sacks, and they just had 29 rushing yards when they played in October. They've really gotten this rushing attack going in the last few weeks with Wisner. He's had over 150 yards in the last 2 weeks. And I think that's been really big for them because it's funny, like the Sark offense, we always think of these like big explosive plays. This team really likes to dink and dunk it. Um, they do have a lot of speed on the outside, but they're really methodical with the way they move the football. And I think these short area screens have really been an extension of the run game the last few weeks. But now that they can actually run the football, I think it's going to bode well for them. You mentioned Arch Manning. I also said, do we see Arch Manning? Because Georgia couldn't stop Haynes King last week, and you saw Arch Manning get in there a little bit last week against A&M. He ran for a touchdown, so I'm sure Sark has got a couple packages. I'm sure he wanted Georgia to see that Arch Manning was in. It's something that they have to prepare for, so I'm curious to see how much Arch actually plays. I think Arch is going to throw it too a little bit.
So I thought for sure Archer can get in, but the way you just like the chess mindset that you just had, I don't know. I
Yeah,
kind of I kind of love that theory. I wouldn't be
that he
overly
just doesn't
surprised.
play.
Yeah, if that was just something to show something to get them a little bit off kiltered, if you will.
Yeah. And then for Georgia, I think they've played a lot better over the last few weeks. And I think a big reason for that is Tate Ratledge is back. Their offensive line is fully healthy. Tate Ratledge, a really good player. He's going to be a top 50 pick in this upcoming draft, back from that tightrope injury. Um, they've only allowed 3 sacks in the last 3 weeks. Can they give Beck enough time against this really good Texas front to make plays? But who is going to be the guy that steps up for Georgia with these wide receivers and tight ends? Is it Arian Smith? Can they finally get a big play downfield to him? They've been trying for a couple big shots over the last few weeks, haven't connected, but he's a downfield stretcher. I'm looking for the tight ends possibly to make a big impact on this game, but the linebackers for Texas are really, really good. And then defensively for Georgia, I think they have the personnel to match up with Texas. We saw in that first game, but I'm looking for these safeties to be really big in this game. Malachi Starks, Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson, former walk on. This guy would probably be getting NFL looks if he wasn't a former walk on. I'm really looking for them to play a huge role in this RPO game for Texas. As much speed as Texas has, like we said, that dink and dunk offense, I think those two safeties are going to be really important to play discipline in that RPO game, play their scheme, tackle, and not let up the big play. And then that defensive line, Jalen Walker and Mykel Williams have been as good as always. Can they collapse the pocket enough and make Quinn uncomfortable, make him step up, and hopefully force a few errant throws?
Yeah, and then just to touch back on, you said someone needs to step up for Georgia. I think Nate Frazier's going to have a massive game, and he's got to hold on to the football. I mean, he's been trouble with some of those fumbles issues, and you can't have that in the SEC championship game, especially against this Texas team. I think this Texas offense is just, it's going to be a lot better than it was the first game, and you can't be giving them extra possessions.
Yeah. All right. Texas, 2.5-point favorite on Bovada. The over-under is 49.5. I know you said you already like Texas. What do you think about this over-under? What'd you say? It was 31-24?
Yep.
Okay. So you like the over here?
Yes, I do.
All right. I'm going to roll with Georgia here. I don't know why. I just feel like Kirby has too much experience. I feel like this team is prepared for a game like this. I know it's really tough to beat a team twice, and maybe they even have to see each other a third time in the college football playoff, but we'll see. But, I mean, Georgia, they've made the SEC championship 7 of the last 8 years. Really hard to argue with that experience. So I'm going to take the points, 2.5 on Bovada with Georgia right now.
I mean, you're a coward.
Yeah. Well, you're taking the favorite. What are you talking about? All right, so that wraps up the power four. Ray, you got a lean on UNLV, Boise State. Boise State's a 3.5-point favorite right now on Bovada.
I mean, I'm leaning Boise State just because I want to see Genty in the playoffs. I think it'd be good for the sport to have an actual Heisman candidate. I think he should be the Heisman winner personally, but you need one of those top guys in the tournament, if you will.
Yeah, I'm kind of rooting for UNLV and my boy Ricky White to have a big game against Boise State. Boise State has not looked good the last few weeks. They've kind of fucked around these last few weeks. So, and I'm rooting for chaos, man. Because honestly, Boise State, if they win, they're getting a first round bye. That's fucking bullshit. Like,
well, that's outrageous.
What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, yeah, they gotta do something. They got obviously going to be tweaked next year. There's no way they can go into next year with the same playoff format.
Yeah. So, what do you think next year? Are we talking reseeding? We've brought up, or there's no automatic bids. It's top 4 teams get the buys, no matter what conference you play in. What do you think?
You mean no?
Or you expand?
No automatic buy. If they expand, they gotta cut it off somewhere. This is outrageous. You said no automatic buys or no automatic
bids
in general. No automatic bids.
No automatic bids in general.
I don't think they're getting rid of automatic bids. The buys, on the other hand, I could see them tweaking that, but I think reseeding would be the best because I do understand wanting to, at least for now, let the conferences kind of like mean something a little bit, and the regular season in particular mean something because it's already diluted beyond belief. But that being said, it's clearly going to a 2-conference sport. So eventually I think that stuff's going to be done with. But I think for now, they're just going to tweak it to be a reseed after the first round.
Before we get out of here, we got to do our final predictions for the college football playoff rankings. Ray, what do you got?
I'm going to go Texas 1.
Okay.
Penn State 2.
Oh, yeah.
Clemson 3. Boise State 4. Yeah, it's chaos.
It's already
Oregon 5. Notre Dame 6. Georgia 7. Ohio State 8. Tennessee 9. Indiana 10. Oh, who did I miss? I missed someone, didn't I? Oh no, Indiana 10. Oh wow.
Yeah, now you got Bama.
Yeah, Indiana 10. And I'm gonna go Iowa State 11, SMU 12. Bama gets bumped. Bama gets bumped.
Holy shit.
I think they have to. I just think with SMU being 8, I don't see them Alabama can't, if they jump them in a close game, I think it's outrageous.
I know.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but
I think you're right. I think you're right in that scenario. All right, I'm gonna go. I know I picked Penn State, but I don't actually think they're gonna win.
wait, what the fuck?
I think they'll keep it close, but I do like that under. So I'm gonna say Oregon sticks at number 1. I have Georgia at 2. Then I have SMU at 3. Boise State at 4. Notre Dame at 5. Texas at 6. Penn State at 7. Ohio State at 8. Tennessee 9. Indiana 10. Alabama 11, and then Iowa State at 12.
Penn State over Ohio State's crazy to me, but
we made the conference championship. You didn't.
Yeah, what if you guys get routed though?
If we get routed, we might fall one spot below you.
That's gonna be an interesting one. I don't know how they're gonna do that.
I don't know. I've seen it so 50-50 where like the conference championship loser, it's not going to hurt them, or they're going to get fucked.
But it's weird because like head to head also matters in a sense, right? Like if you both 2 lost teams and you lost head to head, and it wasn't the score wasn't one sided, but the last 3 quarters of the game was pretty one sided. It'd be interesting to see how they do it.
Yeah, I consider myself decently smart, and these rankings never make sense.
Fair enough.
So we do what we can, right? All right, that's going to wrap it up for us here on Between Two Tackles. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed our conference championship preview. Stay locked in with us. We got a lot of content coming your way before the NFL draft. We're obviously going to talk about the college football playoff coming up. We're going to talk about some Senior Bowl and some Shrine Bowl stuff. We got to get some prospect talk in. I know Ray's itching for that. As always, please rate and subscribe to the pod and follow our Twitter at 2Tackles with the number 2. You can also follow our YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Between Two Tackles with the number 2, and stick with us as we head towards this national championship. Ray, my friend, appreciate you.